This really is the mecca of world cycling. The enthusiasm of Belgium is second to none. The car park this morning here for the start of the Tour of Flanders is packed with riders, spectators, managers and press alike. Hi everyone, I'm Phil Liggett and welcome to the square here in St Nicholas. You know, they say there are 10,000 spectators here for the start this morning, and they rightly claim that's the biggest crowd you'll ever get for the start of a classic race, because after all it goes to Ninove to the finish, and that is a few kilometres away. The race goes down into the deepest heart of Flanders, and the peculiarities of this race, well, there are 14 small climbs called bergs or mounts. They call this the Queen of the Classics here in Belgium. It does stand comparison to the other Queen of the Classics in France, Paris-Roubaix, because the two races both have pavé or cobblestones. The difference is here in Flanders, they're all uphill. Well, the race starts really for everybody with ambition to win with 85 miles to go, and then the hills come thick and fast. The last climb is the Bosberg, just 7 miles from the finish, and that was where last year Edwig van Hooijdonk springboarded away to victory. In second place was Johan Museeuw. Now, if Edwig van Hooijdonk can win again today, it will be for the third time. He will join an elite club of riders, in fact totaling only 4, including himself, to have won this race on 3 occasions. But what men can beat him? Sean Kelly could win this race. He's been second in it 3 times. He's been third in it once. He's just won Milan-San Remo. He comes here as the leader of the World Cup, and he's almost 36 years of age. There's also the champion Italian, Moreno Argentin, who won this race in 1990. Last year he won 2 of the Spring Classics here in Belgium. He's won this before. He'd like to win it again. So there are plenty of riders to take on Edwig van Hooijdonk in the fight to find out who will be boss of the Bergs. So let's join the action of the 76th running of the Tour of Flanders. And the big field in the Tour of Flanders have a lot to think about this year, because early on in the race 4 riders have built a lead of 22 minutes plus today. They are now down to 8 minutes 20 seconds. 3 riders are chasing them in between, and the distance still to go, some 53 kilometres. That's around 32 miles still to race. And the Molenberg is the next big climb on the horizon. There's now a lot of fluid movement in this bunch, but you know they've let the line run out long today. This 4-man breakaway of Hervé Meevisch and Patrick Roland, both Belgian riders, Thomas Wegmuller of Switzerland and Jackie Durand of France. It was Durand who launched the first attack very early on, and they're still out in front. The gap is now coming down, and the counter-attacks are coming very, very heavily indeed from the Buckler team and from the Lotto team as they swing onto the cobblestone, and somebody slipped there. This is the climb of the Molenberg. It could well have been Edwig van Hooijdonk who missed his pedals on the climb. Guido Bontempi it was. There he is, getting his feet back on the pedals as he starts the climb of the Molenberg. A little climb, only half a kilometre, but it's a brute. And the riders now are having to tackle this with a deficit of 8 minutes 20 seconds on those 4 leaders. And they're getting to grips here. Now this is the chasing group that's trying to get away at the front, because they're really going to have to get something going now. They've been steadily knocking off the minutes on every climb so far. But they've played out a lot of line with these riders, probably because the 4 riders up front, really the only one of any note in the professional world is Thomas Wegmuller. This is Johan Museeuw, who's just dropped back here, trying to break away now in this second group. He's got with him, I think, Yellow Nidem on the far right, and the man setting the tempo here, well, that'll be Johan Capio. Capio, the winner this year of the Hepvolk, and he really is coming into his own this year, developing himself with some good wins in the races. There's Nidam, Yellow Nidam, son of Henk Nidam, but he really is a superb rider now, Yellow Nidam, looking for the move that might finally eat into the lead. There's 3 riders just ahead. Well, that'll be Sammy Morels, Schmiel and Ken Gialta. They broke away just a few kilometres ago. Now these 3 are coming across, and this is a very, very good move by Lotto, because Lotto are bringing across their favourite, Johan Museeuw. They have a strong rider up there already in Sammy Morels, and if the 2 of them get together, well, these 6 could now fly from this leading group. It looks as though Museeuw, in fact, a little bit concerned about the proximity. He's waiting to see if the short, sharp climb of the Molenberg has done the damage he wanted. If he's got the gap, then he'll start putting his weight into this chase. He's going to come up right behind his teammate, Sammy Morels, and just let him know the captain's turned up, and now it's time to get on with some serious chasing. Well, they've managed to eat into that lead. As I say, 22 minutes was the original gap, 22 minutes 10 seconds to be exact. Let's have a look at this again now. Watch the centre of your picture, because this is where, in fact, Bontempi overcooks it on the bend, loses the traction on his back wheel, manages to get his foot off quick enough so he doesn't fall. It is balked a little bit, I think, by another rider on that corner. But anyway, he survived to live on. He's having a bit of trouble finding his feet again. This big man who's got tremendous form this year, Bontempi. Looks as though he might be in for a good year. Let's go back up to the chase. And in fact, these 3 riders are being joined. There's the 6 riders in the lead. There's a small group here coming across as well. So there's this now developing into a nice little chase group. That looks like Rolf Sorensen there, Ali Austria rider. We'll go down and have a look. And he's actually shouting at them. Maybe he's shouting at Ken Giolta here to just hang on while he comes across the gap. His teammate goes straight through. Van Hooijdonk is up here too, wearing number 1 as last year's winner. Now this is a very good group. And the other name on our screen, Marc Madiot, the winner of Paris-Roubaix 1 year ago, has come across. This is a superb group now of strong men. And now we should see the lead come down very rapidly with those 4 riders out in front. Johan Capio having his best season thus far and willing to get on with the racing now on his homeland, the Tour of Flanders. He must have put in thousands of training miles on these narrow roads down here in Flanders over the years, and happy now to tap out the rhythm. A long, thin line, the peloton behind, not giving up yet by any manner of means. This group must be then about 9 strong. Well, it looks to me as though they're getting across. Roodborst is the location, 31 miles from the finish, and still to come, of course, the climbs of the Berendries, the Muur, the famous wall, and finally the Bosberg, which comes some 7 miles from the finish. And those should be enough to see the boys in the front back in this big peloton. It's not likely they could possibly survive what would indeed turn out to be the longest escape in the history of the Tour of Flanders. They're not that strong. Let me tell you a little bit about Hervé Meewisch, because he's a 23-year-old, second-year professional. He got his contract, in fact, with the Carrera team only largely after a suggestion from Eddy Merckx, and he's riding in the team now. He finished 57th last year in Paris Tours, and he's never won a race at all as a professional. Patrick Rowland, well, I would say that Patrick Rowland probably best remembered for a stage victory in the DuPont Tour last year in the United States, where he won the leg between Newark and Columbia, and that win also gave him a very brief lead in the event. But he too is not an outstanding rider. The most exceptional rider in that lead group is, of course, Thomas the Tank, Thomas Wegmüller from Switzerland, turned pro back in 1987. Just look at Capio here, by the way, as he tries to really turn the screw a little bit tighter because the main field are latching on at the back. Well, Thomas Wegmüller is a class rider. He's won from a long breakaway once before. Well, he didn't win. He was second in Paris-Roubaix behind Dirk de Mol a couple of years ago. And now he's the driving force in that breakaway. The other man in the breakaway, Jackie Durand, he is a Limousin. He wasn't born in Limoges, but he lives down there at the moment. And although he's been racing since he was 13, he's a new professional rider in 1990, and he's won only 1 race. So that is why the race has allowed those 4 men their head today, because they have no confidence they will survive. Now they've got to prove their point and chase them down. Well, that was a lovely attack they had going there. Now just look at this. So many riders have got across that the power has been turned off, and Capio doesn't like it. He wants a little bit more action. What's the point of working hard if you're going to let it all go again, he thinks. And 23 seconds is the screen there, but that, I think, is this small group which is just built up over the main field. Number 3 coming through there, and that is Frans Maassen, who's got into the picture now. So Frans Maassen, this looks like the big figure of Dirk de Wolf, who has plenty of support here in Belgium. And it is indeed Dirk de Wolf. He looks as though he's about to crush his bike there, he's so strong. A little look at the camera, a little blow out of the mouth, and he's just come across. In fact, there's the 50 kilometres to go pano sign. That's 31 miles rather from the finish. And de Wolf has done a good ride to get across this gap. Although the bunch has certainly thinned, this has got to be a very big group indeed. Capio still up here. Sammy Morel's the Lotto boy, and now somebody has tried to slip away off the front. This is the only way they are going to bring back those 4 leaders. I'm sorry we can't show you pictures of the leaders at the moment, but the fact is that one of our helicopters bringing the pictures had a problem, and so we've lost the use of the camera up there, and which means that now we're going to have to watch, which for me anyway, and I'm sure you'll agree, is the more exciting aspect of the race, because the 4 riders up there are trying to survive. They're all working, as far as we know, all together, but this is where the chase is developing right behind. Verster Kouter And the overweg, well, that's the Flemish word for a level railroad crossing, and there it is. And they're safely through that one. The narrow roads of Flanders. It's superb cycling country. And if you're interested ever in taking part in the Tour of Flanders, by the way, not, I hasten to add, as a professional rider, there is a tourist trial that covers the exact same route. It's run around September, and they get many thousands of riders coming down here just to ride the same route as the riders in the Tour of Flanders. Pas de Straat, 1,300 metres of cobbled road is the next serving on the menu. And you know, that's a shame that little breakaway didn't work, but they've brought it all back together again. And this is Frans Maassen now, tapping out the rhythm at the front. Big Frans, who turned up with a great victory in the Amstel Gold Race last year, and he'll be there defending his title again this time through. In fact, having said all that, this is Gerrit Solleveld. They're very, very alike, but this is Solleveld now who's setting the tempo. We've got Solleveld, Van Hooijdonk, Frans Maassen, Nijdam, the kingpins behind the Buckler successes, and now trying to close down on what is really three unknowns and a very experienced long-distance specialist out in front, and that is Thomas Wegmuller. And now the riders, there's two riders down there from the Motorola team. That's a good sight. They're still looking for a very elusive victory to open up their season. Second year sponsorship by the American company, of course. And last year they made such a brilliant start, especially with Phil Anderson winning so well in the early months. But there we are, they haven't won at all this year. I suppose that's the luck of cycle racing. And they're going to have to do something about wiping out the lead of these four riders pretty soon, before they get to the Bosberg indeed. Because once you're at the Bosberg, you've got 7 miles of rolling countryside and you're down at the finish in Meerbeke. 47.9 kilometres from the finish. That's around 30 miles to go. We're still waiting for the latest information on the times, but I would say now we're around about 7 minutes 10 seconds. And the chance now that these riders really must start to close down. This is Solleveld still doing a lion's share of the turn at the front. Try and keep this. He's being tailed there by one of the TVM riders. And 39 seconds they're showing us here, but these are little splits that are happening at the front of this group as they try to go clear now of the big peloton behind. And the Motorola rider who looks in the front there, I think it's Dag Otto Lauritsen who's riding near the front. Well, that's good to see Dag back onto form as well. There's Van Hooijdonk, slipped a little way down in the blue jersey. And this group has grown a little bit too ungainly now for a chase to be organised properly. Once they come off these cobblestones here at Pas de Straat, the next major climb will be the Berendries, and that'll come some 32 kilometres from the finish, which is exactly 20 miles, and by then they really need to be down to around about 4.5 to 5 minutes behind that leading four if they're going to have a chance of bringing them back before we get down to the finish. A lot of racing being done now. The whole ride, all of the riders here in a long, thin line. And there is confirmation. There's only 3 riders left. Look, Wegmuller, Meewisch and Durand. 7 minutes. Now, it's still possible indeed. That's the sort of time check I wanted to see, 7 minutes. The rider that they've dropped, in fact, is Patrick Roland, the 29-year-old from Belgium and the stage winner of the DuPont Tour last year at Columbia. He has been dropped from that lead group, and that will be sweet news in the ears of this chase group now, because they will now feel happy that those front 4 riders are showing signs of cracking. Because you bet your life that word will have swept down through the peloton by either the motorcyclists or somebody on the roadside, but they will know that Patrick Roland has been dropped from that lead group. 7 minutes the gap now. Heading down through Uppers Hogestraat and on through Strijpen. Again, it's being left an awful lot of work here to the Buckler team, and nobody willing to help them bring back those 3 leaders. Oh, and that was a very tight piece of cornering too there by Solleveld. He almost took out our motorbike, but he straightened himself up. A big man to bounce over the cobbles, sits right back on the saddle now as he goes on that small stretch of cobblestone, searches for the gear with which he feels a little bit comfortable. Well, I wouldn't think that those people can survive now, because they really have got themselves a superb rhythm going here, but they could do with a little bit more assistance at the front. 1,700 metres of cobblestones here for Zolleveld, and he's the first man in the best position to plot the course. And in fact, news reaching us that Greg LeMond has had a little bit of trouble, and he's crashed but not seriously, and it sounds as though he may well have retired from the race. So that's rather sad for the Z team and for Greg, who still searches to find his early season form. One has that sneaking feeling that he's come to the European circuit this year in rather good condition. Time will tell the answer to that as Zolleveld continues to bash out the tempo. A tattoo there on his left arm, which I've never noticed before, I must say. Pulling this race into a long straight line. I'm surprised that nobody's trying here to get up alongside him and give him a hand, because they know now that this leading group of only 3 riders inside 7 minutes. With every turn of the pedals, the seconds are knocking off. And this, don't forget, is a long breakaway that's been out there. It was started by Jackie Durand at the 45th kilometre of the race, and that was some 30 miles into the race. And then he was joined by Wegmuller and by Meewisch and then by Roland. Roland has now been dropped. And then they gained by the 90th kilometre, something like 55 miles into the race. They had an enormous lead of over 22 minutes. And since then, they've been losing ground. The question is, can they survive? And I think you get good odds at the moment to say that they will not. There aren't many trees in this part of Flanders, but they do offer some protection, I suppose, as Zolleveld starts to rip the field apart here. He's done a tremendous piece of pacemaking. He's been on the front of this group now for so long, and his intention, of course, is to try and pull the Buckler team back into action. Jan Raas, who always wants results from the Buckler team. This year, Jan Raas said his team, he didn't want them to win so many races as they did last year, but he wanted them to win races of quality. Well, this would go down as the sort of race that Jan would like to see them win, because of course the Tour of Flanders, as it is here, the second round in the World Cup competition, the Paris-Roubaix still to come, and the winner of Milan-San Remo, leader of the World Cup, is Sean Kelly. And as far as we know, Kelly is right in the thick of it here today, although we haven't seen him, and he'll be wearing a white jersey if we do catch a sight of him, because he is the leader of the World Cup competition. And this is the one race, of course, that Kelly has always wanted to win. It's the one classic that the Irishman has never had a chance. Well, I say never had a chance in, because that really is wrong. He really should have won this race in 1986 when he was beaten in the sprint by Adrie van der Poel, and Sean Kelly totally misjudged it. Kelly should have been the winner that year, and that was the first of 2 second places. His next one coming behind his friend Claude Quillion in 1987. Now that says there remain 3 hills and 2 stretches of cobblestone still to come in this year's Tour of Flanders. So they're going to have to use those 3 hills now to rip into that overall lead of the 3 riders. Zolleveld, nobody helping him, but then he's still turning out a rapid pace here, and he won't be far below 28 miles an hour. And it's time to take on a little bit of food. No, indeed, this is a map of the course he's got here, and he's just checking now to see how much remains. And a quick calculation, indeed, I would suggest whether they can catch those 3 riders. We haven't had a time check since 7 minutes, but I would expect now to see it around 6. On towards the Berendries. This is hill number 12 of 14 of the Monts of Flanders. And this is a nasty little climb as well. It's largely asphalt, it's 900 metres, and it has a maximum gradient of 14%. Chance for somebody perhaps now to break away, because Zolleveld's been up there so long, he surely can't have a lot of strength left in his legs. He's staying up there too, and he's continuing as they start the climb of the Berendries shortly. No sign at all of people like Sean Kelly. Johan Museeuw, who's played a quieter role since we caught him a few minutes ago after that breakaway, along with Sorensen and Madio. That looked a very useful attack, and it should never have got wiped out quite as quickly as it did. 42 kilometres in the finish now. Still the leaving for Gerrit Zolleveld to set the tempo. And it shouldn't be too long now before, in fact, we we see Patrick Rowland, because as far as I know, he's just tootling along the road off the back of those 3 leaders he's left behind. His day is done, as it were. Moving up there on the outside, and Mr. Rider number 123 here is Andre Schmiel, and there's confirmation. 6.5 minutes now. It's coming down. The question is it coming down quick enough? 6 minutes 32 seconds as we approach the Berendries climb. Once we're up the Berendries climb, we'll be 20 miles from the finish. 6 minutes in 20 miles. One will have to gamble that they really do tire very, very quickly towards the end, and you'd expect that to happen as well. This is Rob Harmeling who's got to the front now. So the TVM boys now deciding it's time to give their rival Dutch team a hand at the front. It could well be that the TVM team will become Holland's #1 team next year, you know, because as the way it's going, PDM are withdrawing from the sport, Buckler are withdrawing from the sport, changing their direction of advertising. That leaves only Panasonic and TVM in Dutch cycling, although everybody is confident that both of the teams that are leaving will indeed be found new homes. Feeding station then, a chance for the riders to hear from the crowd too exactly the time gap. Zottegem and Harmeling ignoring the food, deciding that the remaining 20... Oh, having said that, he snatched his bag. I thought with about 25 miles to go, slightly less than that, they weren't going to bother to take on food. But Harmeling has broken his rhythm now, so he's loading the food in his pockets, and off goes the bottle for a souvenir. And the bag will follow very shortly. So Harmeling, TVM setting the pace. They're going to be together again at the front. The gap is now down to inside 7 minutes. And the next time check we'll get will probably be on the Berendries. This has turned out to be a remarkable race. Well, it's a pity we can't just see the face of Thomas the Tank at the front at the moment, because I'm quite sure he's gritting his teeth and he's thinking that it might be possible now. He's been an exponent of the long breakaway ever since he turned professional, and he really can find the strength to survive enormous distances out in the lead. Well, just dropping down the side of our picture there, it looked to me as though it might well have been Patrick Rowland who's passed. So it was indeed Patrick Rowland, so they've wiped him out. He's completely blown to the world. I'm not too sure he knew the main field came past him there. It's a breakaway that's lasted about 180 kilometres, 190 kilometres for him. He's now been back in the field. Unlikely he'll reach the finish, I would think. But Patrick Rowland, they know now for sure there are only 3 men out there. And there's the squat sprinter figure of Johan Capio. And Capio continues to really threaten to have a terrific season this year. He's had a marvellous start to the season. He got off with a great win in Het Volk. He's also had a superb win in the Flèche Brabançon. And 6:15, 6 minutes 15, it's coming down. And Wegmüller, Meewisch and Giron survive now by only 6 minutes 15 seconds of the original 22 plus. And that is the sort of time check that they need. It's got to be down to 5 minutes over the top of the Berendries, I would think. Considering the speed that this race has been going, it says an awful lot for that breakaway, you know, up front. They must have really found the rhythm despite the distance that they have ridden today. And a breakaway going here. Jesper Skibby sitting at the front, deciding if anybody's going to come and give him a hand to chase down somebody who slipped away from the front of this group. We're now through Zottegem, and there's a counter-attack coming from the Ariostia rider. We'll see who it is when he flashes by. And just have a look. This looks like it might be Rob Harmeling, who's still out in front here, having a go. And indeed it is. So he's riding very, very strongly. Just dangling off the front, hoping he can tempt away 1 or 2 big names to start a working group that might well pull back those 3 leaders quickly. Still more than 6 minutes as we make the approach now towards the Berendries. Big Dutchman, outstanding amateur rider. Looks a little bit too big for the hills of Flanders, doesn't he? But we'll see. He's got a little group coming up towards him here. A little group, it's the whole peloton have just latched on. A long thin line of riders. Again, they've picked up the leader and the power has turned off that little bit. When you've got these riders out front continuing to tap out the message, they're going to become very, very concerned about this breakaway now. They should be very concerned by it. And the team car coming through, and that in fact is the team car of one of the riders in the lead, Jackie Giron's team car, that is. And he's gone up now to tell Giron that I would think that there's a real chance that breakaway will stay away. So Giron's gone through, and Carrera's going through as well, and that's for Hervé Mayvish, and they must be quite surprised that Mayvish, who's never done anything in the world of cycling, is now up there in this breakaway, and they're going up to tell him to keep going. Again, the power's been turned off in this chase group. Well, perhaps Eddie Merckx, the great cyclist he was, has seen something in Mayvish that nobody else has seen, because it was only because Eddie actually asked Carrera a favour. They took him on board last year. And now he's finally putting in a great performance in a race in his own country, the Tour of Flanders. Again, Peloton leaving the work to one man, Rob Harmeling. Two on the inside here, there's Thierry Gouvenou. Settling in now, new pro last year. It's been a long wait for the people here. I think seeing the leaders go through some 5.5, 6 minutes ago. They're now seeing the bunch come through. And they might well be thinking that it's all over for the peloton. The peloton certainly aren't thinking that. They're relying now, though, on the slowing down at the front, which will come through tiredness of the distance. Because if they did survive to the finish, they will have been in the lead for over 220 kilometres. That in itself will be a record in the Tour of Flanders. And Harmeling trying to keep his team man Johan Capio in touch here. Good piece of pacemaking. We've seen nothing at all of Moreno Argentin. Rolf Sorensen has put in a brief appearance when he made up the numbers in that 9-man chasing group. But you know, Argentin started off so well this season. He finished, he had something like 6 wins before they came here. Having won 2 stages and the overall in the Sicilian week. Now we're heading up towards, it's still 4.5 kilometres look to the Berendries, so there's still plenty of time. Second in Milan-San Remo after Sean Kelly caught him just before the finish, and he won 3 stages in Tirreno Adriatico. That's Moreno Argentin. But since then, he's appeared to me to be losing the edge of his form. Well, at this time last year, of course, he was virtually unbeatable. Still Harmeling being left to do all of the work at the front. And there should be a change of partner if there's going to be any catching of that breakaway. Jelle Nijdam is resting some 4 back behind Thierry Gouvenou. I think that's Ralph Jerman in second place behind Harmeling here. And now I think 5:58 inside 6 minutes. We're about 3.5 kilometres from the Berendries. So Wegmuller, Mayvish and Giron, if they were beginning to think they might have this race in the bag, they want to start thinking otherwise, because the last few miles of Tour of Flanders is very, very difficult indeed. Very difficult indeed, especially with the climb of the Muur. It's a brute of a hill, it's cobbled all the way, and it is so steep in fact the following cars in the race have to be sent around the climb, because, and that's Jerman. Jerman has gone off, I think he slipped his chain. Well, that is really on bad luck, because he was just moving right to the front here as we approach the Berendries. His chain is jammed, and Rolf Jerman is, I would suggest now, out of the Tour of Flanders, because you're not going to get back right now. Jelle Nijdam has got back in control at the front. He stomps his way up, and Nijdam, what a strong rider Jelle Nijdam is. Superb rider too. Multi-stage winner in the Tour de France. And you could say he's going at a gallop. Well, it's the barren fields of Flanders, and so often the weather at this time of the year is bad. It's not bad today, in fact it's quite pleasant. But you can imagine how the wind and the rain destroys a professional cycling peloton when they have these races in bad weather here at this time of year in Flanders. And it's exactly at this point, they're saying here, where Moreno Argentin jumped away when he won the race last year. And indeed, for the moment anyway, we've got 3 riders who have gone, and these riders are trying to bring them back. Andre Schmiel again on the attack. Become a much improved bike rider this year, Andre Schmiel. He lives in Belgium at Charleroi, although he's a former member of the Soviet Union. Like so many Soviet cyclists now, they're turned professional, and they are making a big impression on the professional peloton. Harmeling again, I think it is, forcing his way back to front. And Andre Schmiel decided, oh yes, he's going to get out the saddle and take his wheel. Well, they must now be eating into the lead of those three riders, because they have never eased off for the last couple of kilometres. There's been good, solid attacking riding now being delivered by the domestiques of the big teams, and including Nydam also putting in a lot of weight behind the chase. On a downhill here, although you can't really tell that from my helicopter shot. 7% going down. Oh my goodness me, that was a bit wide. But Andre Schmiel lost his position with the leaders there as he almost overshot that bend. Very, very tight bend indeed. Caught him completely off guard. And the field now having to race. They're probably doing something like 60 or 70 kilometers an hour down this hill. Very narrow roads, and our motorcycle cameraman doing well to keep out of the way. And that's why we're taking our pictures at the moment, at least from the helicopter. Still TVM, Rob Harmeling setting the pace at the front. The rider up behind him there is one of the Gatorade riders. I don't think it's Dirk de Wolf. In fact, it is Dirk de Wolf, 162, that's him. And de Wolf also looking now for a chance to slip the field. What a strong man he is. Dirk de Wolf finished second in the World Championship in 1990, 5 minutes 15. The gap continues to tumble now from original 22:10 was the biggest time check we had. And now it's down to 5 minutes 15 seconds. It's still possible that they'll reel those three in, because once they hit the Bosberg, they're going to hit a wall, and they will literally hit the wall when they get to the Muur, because that's what it means in the Flemish language. Muur means wall, and that's what it's like. Well, this pressure has been on now, I would suggest, for the last 45 minutes. They've hardly slowed down. They've reduced that lead because it was something like 8¼ minutes with some 34 miles to go, and now it's down to almost 5 minutes, and we are still around about 20 miles to go to the finish. So it is very possible indeed that they will wipe this lead out somewhere around the Bosberg. And there's been a crash here. And this is at the back of the pack, and in fact that is Sorensen down there, and Argentin looking over his shoulder. Argentin hesitating there not to race back, and Argentin waiting to see if Rolf Sorensen is going to get back on his bike. Now that brings back memories of a year ago when Sorensen in Liège-Bastogne-Liège did so much to help Argentin win Liège-Bastogne-Liège, both riders being in that lead group. And it's almost as if Argentin didn't want to leave the side there of Rolf Sorensen. And he's come back, and look at this. Now, who would have thought that? Moreno Argentin has given his bike to Rolf Sorensen. It's a smaller bike, by the way, as you can see by the way he sat down there. But Sorensen is taking it, and that's an indication to me, in fact, that Argentin is not enjoying his Tour of Flanders today. He's assessed that Sorensen has a better chance of victory. He's given him his bike, but Rolf will not be happy on that bike. It's a couple of centimetres too small, and every time he sits down, I would think his legs crack. But that is a fine gesture by Moreno Argentin, a rider who's won 6 races this year. And there's the fall in the centre of the peloton, and it looked to me as though it was Sorensen who touched the wheel and went down, and 1 or 2 riders have been delayed by the crash, and 1 or 2 more appear to have fallen off as well. What it has done though is split the field completely right in the middle, and it might well be that that field will stay split now. Telecom rider there straightening his handlebars. But the important thing is that Sorensen has received the bike there from his team captain Moreno Argentin, and that might be a little favour returned. Let's go back up to the action now, which is still coming thick and fast, and the attacks are still being launched here now because they're trying desperately to eat into the lead of some 5 minutes and 15 seconds. This is Schmiel again at the top, heading up now towards the Berendries climb, a 14% maximum gradient, almost a kilometre in length. And it is a short, sharp and very nasty little climb, but they'll take it very quickly. Andre Schmiel there. And sitting on the wheel is Stephen Hodge, the Australian rider who's come so good these last 2 years, developed to become one of the strong men of the Once team, where he rides alongside Marina Lajaretta, who's riding his last season this year, and we'll all be sorry to see him go. What a marvellous rider he is, the Spanish rider. And He only won one stage in the Tour de France, and when he won that, he didn't realise he'd won it because he thought there were riders in front of him. So Stephen Hodge feeling very frisky now on the Berendries, Schmiel marking him nicely. And I'm wondering if at the back the race remains split after that crash there. But Stephen has gambled on holding that gear and that rhythm all the way to the top, and I think the legs just cracked. And he's now having a problem to keep turning that gear up right over the top. He's looking over his shoulder. It wouldn't surprise me very shortly he goes down there and drops it down a gear. He's coming over the top and he's keeping it going nicely out of the saddle. But everybody has marked Hodge. And there goes the gear change. And the tempo he's created there is going to keep the main field here pulling back on those three survivors. Just to remind you, I'm sorry we can't show you any pictures at all of those three riders at the moment because we had a technical fault with the helicopter, and it means that we've had to bring the cameras back to show you the main race. But this is where the action is. What are the bunch going to do about those three riders out front? They're trying desperately now to wheel them in, and this is Schmiel who's going. He's waited, and that is a beautiful place to launch an attack just as you go over the top of the Berendries when everybody wants to ease and their legs start to ache after the climb. He's jumped clear. Hodge has gritted his teeth and tried to go. So too here, Dirk de Wolf. You're a marvellous facial character he is, Dirk de Wolf. And he's having a word with the cameraman there. I think it was pleasant, but you never know. Over the top and out onto the wider roads. Edric van Hooijdonk, closer marking again now by the man of Flanders. Won it twice this race as a professional. He also won it as an amateur. And he's made his attack in the same place both years as a pro on the Bosberg. And they called him Eddie Boss of the Bergs, and that's a very apt title. Well, again, they've got a split at the head of the field, some 12, 13 riders or so, but once more, they're freewheeling, they're not pushing home the advantage. Dirk de Wolf looking over his shoulder. Stephen Hodge keeping it going. Inside 5 minutes, over the top, and inside 20 miles to go. So they're going to have to take out a minute now every 5 miles. Or every 4 miles, isn't it, if they're going to catch them before the line. And that should be possible. But whatever happens to those riders out front, the three of them, you have to admit that they have really taken this race apart, and they've thrown in a few frighteners to this main field. The field made a mistake. It's not unusual to get riders attacking early on and claiming big leads, but really you don't allow people like Thomas Wegmuller to get the best part of 23 minutes on an attack from the gun. They're having to work so hard now to bring him in, and there's no real unity in this chase, and that's the problem. There are still 2 climbs to come. That's a nasty bend round the island in the centre, because the teams are not working together, because each team doesn't want to take up the other team's sprinter, and I think that might work to the advantage, you know, of those 3 riders. The Buckler team again come to the fore with 3 riders here. That looks like Frans Maassen who's got to the front. Van Hooijdonk is here, Zollerveld. And Dirk de Wolf trying to get onto the lead group as well in those black tights. Schmiel never far away from the action. He's tried an attack. He's getting his breath back, about 4 to 5 men down. It looks to me as though Gert-Jan Teunis has also come up. He's in about 3rd place now in the TBM colours. There's Dirk de Wolf, and there is Gert-Jan Teunis. I think he'll be a force to be reckoned with once again in this year's Tour de France, but right now he's thinking of a good performance here in the Tour of Flanders. 4 minutes 30, it's coming down fast now. 4 minutes 30, Wegmuller, Meewies and Durand. And the riders will also be receiving these checkpoints, but not the same time as us, I would suspect. And 4.5 minutes now, and still they've got the big climb of the Muur to come, and then of course the final climb of the Bosberg, and it should end on the Bosberg. Dirk de Wolf deciding to keep the rhythm going by launching himself off the front. Well, de Wolf, it's nice to see him coming back to such good form. He seems to have enjoyed his change to the Italian team, Gatorade, as his ranking in the world of cycling, 51st on the professional cycling list of ranked riders, of which there are nearly 1,000, by the way. And Dirk de Wolf, of course, got many of those points when he finished second in the World Championship behind his then teammate Rudy Dans. And the field coming back together. Johnny Tolan. Yeah, no, it can't be Johnny Tolan, but the rider coming up on the outside. Panasonic rider there. Johnny Tolan with Mark Van Orso, the redhead on the Panasonic team and the workhorse of the team. Just keeping Dirk de Wolf in his sights and trying to drag across that field as well. There's de Wolf. If he gets clear, then he'll be gone. A very strong rider indeed, Dirk de Wolf. I first remember him in 1982 when he came over to Britain as an amateur. I think he brought his whole fan club with him, and he dominated in the Sea Link International 5-day race. Went home the winner and then turned professional. And everybody felt he was destined to be a great star. Well, he hasn't actually lived up to that. But nonetheless, Dirk de Wolf this year has come out with the best form I've seen him for a while. And of course, he finished second in the World Championship as well. So let's hope he can do something this season. At the moment, he dangles off the front. He's finding it quite painful as well. His idea is here, really, I would think, to hope that one or two riders will come and join him and give him a hand with something like 18 miles still to race. We're just over 4 minutes behind the leaders. They're very tired. They're coming down, but the riders know here that they must, when they get into Geroldsbergen, they'll be on the Muur de Grammont, and once they climb that climb, they must be within 2 minutes, I would say, to really hit them hard on the Bosberg and then take care of them before the finish at Nierbeke. That's the theory. Now, what will happen in the practice? De Wolf, I think, is well aware of the danger now of this breakaway. There's no doubt the Buckler team are. They've worked very hard to try and catch these leaders, but without success so far. And De Wolf is still holding on to his lead. And the lady there recognised the Belgian, even if he was in the Italian racing strip of Gateway. It looks like Guido Bontempi coming across. Indeed, it is. He makes the pedalling look so easy. He just sits there. It's almost like he's in an armchair, isn't it? And punches the pedals, those beautiful big legs of his. Stage winner in the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France, and the winner of Gent-Wevelgem a few years ago, 9 years ago, it is to be precise. Now, de Wolf has got somebody with him, but the Lotto boys have hit him and hit him rather hard. He wasn't ready for that. He was looking the way of the camera. He has an eye for the camera, Dirk de Wolf, and the riders came up on his right. And now they're trying to rip up from Hodge again, trying to get onto terms. Stephen Hodge working very hard. And this rider here, number 96, is Marc Madiot, the winner of Paris-Roubaix last year. Madiot saved something for the end, but he's not got the wheels of the two who's gone through. And they've gone through very, very quickly. This looks like the style of Yellow Nydam. Nydam trying to get across now. This is a very strong move indeed. Madiot is gritting his teeth. He's slipped it up a gear, and he looks like he might well get on the wheel of Yellow Nydam. Nydam is here, but remember that there's two riders gone ahead, and we'll try and get up there and have a look who they are. And they're trying to assess whether they should allow these two chasers on. Well, they're worth it because, of course, they're both extremely strong. It looks like there's an Ariostio or Panasonic rider coming across the gap as well. Could well be Sorensen. And this is Johan Museo that's got to clear the front. And so we've got this small leading group. Museo. That's why Nydam reacted so well, because the danger man is now trying to get clear of the field. And Museo has waited to let them on. He needs them there for the help. And the one Ariostio rider who has jumped on the back there is Rolf Goltz, the winner earlier this year of the Tour of the Mediterranean. Another man who's known victory on the stage of the Tour de France. And it's down to 3 minutes 40. This is the schedule now for the capture of these three. It's all going according to plan, but they've made it a very, very hard day out. They've had to chase so hard to reduce that gap of over 22 minutes. The field is clawing its way back. What a terrific finish this is going to be to the Tour of Flanders. Just look how this field claws its way back. Van Hooijdonk in second place here. Edwig Van Hooijdonk, who really does feel the Tour of Flanders is his. He's won it twice as a pro, once as an amateur. And despite the fact that he's got Yellow Nydam in that chase group, he's joined the train in the chase down of the leaders. But you may note he wasn't working in fact. So Van Hooijdonk in second place in the chase line as they keep on coming towards those three leaders. slightly more than 3, but it looks to me as though they've got them all. They've wiped them out with that reaction. So they've caught them, and a general regrouping of it's certainly that big bunch has come down a little bit in size now. But there we have Rolf Goltz looking over his shoulder and seeing the tall figure of Edwig van Hooijdonk. And the race now settling down again into sort of, well, it is a united chase now, which is rather special. And we've got, what's his name, Teunissen is also there. And there's Max Schiandri taking time out on the right of our picture. And, you know, you really should play poker, Gert-Jan Teunissen, because he looks so casual. You never know how he is feeling at all. Never shows the pain of the day. Van Hooijdonk always at the front, and again looked over the right of his shoulder. The attack's gone on his left side. Now we're heading to the vicious climb of the Muur. We are still 9 kilometers away. It's still a long way to go, isn't it, to the Muur? And again, more attacks being ripped off the front here by Johan Museeuw. He's anxious now to get things going. A feeling that this breakaway is there for the taking, but if we don't take it soon, we're not going to catch it at all. And Museeuw putting in a lot of violent attacks here to try and get this field either split up or in a concentrated effort to catch the 3 leaders. Van Hooijdonk has got up to this front group. Stephen Hodge been very active these last 20 kilometers or so, 12 miles. And Rob Harmeling also had an excellent last hour and a half in this Tour of Flanders, always near the front. Just over 15 miles to go. Parijke, Hodge back at the front. Riding with a great deal of confidence, this young man. He won the Mazda Tour in Australia towards the end of last season. And he's having a great season this year as well. And I think that he could really develop now. And there's news coming from the front that Meewies has been dropped by the leaders. Meewies, and this is also an attack going here from Dag Otto Lauritsen. And Lauritsen launches attack for the Motorola team as the news reaches us that Hervé Meewies has been dropped by the 2 leaders in the front. So they're down to 2 men. Van Hooijdonk now getting inspired by that. He's going after Dag Otto Lauritsen and chasing both of them there, the Panasonic rider Rudy Darnens, and Museeuw goes again. So the Belgian sprinter won't take it lying down. He goes too, and he's being chased there by Marc Madiot, who equally has used this race, I'm sure, as a test bed today for his form for the upcoming Paris-Roubaix, because Madiot won that race last year. He will defend his title in just a week's time. And this really is Frans Maassen this time, coming through. So they're down to 2 at the front now. Thomas the Tank, that's Wegmuller, and Jackie Giron, and another crash on the bend here. Lauritsen has gone down, and Dag Otto Museeuw is down as well. That's Museeuw getting his bike out of the mess. So Dag Otto Lauritsen, Museeuw is gone. I think it's Ballerini as well who's with them. So there's 2 riders gone down. The man left behind, Dag Otto Lauritsen. Well, my goodness me, memories of the 1990 World Championship must come flooding back here, because Lauritsen fell then, went on with a real chance of becoming the world champion when he collided with Dirk de Wolf. But de Wolf won't take the blame for that one, because he was nowhere near Dag when he fell. And we'll try and have a look at that again in slow motion if we can, but at the moment, let's go back up to the... Oh, there we are. And so let's have a look exactly what happened. He comes on this left-hand bend, a little bit of confusion. It's further back from the motorbike, right down towards the middle, so watching the centre as they make the corner now. And there they go. It looked to me as though, in fact, Dag Otto did collide with the rider in white, and I'm sure that is Franco Ballerini. And the 2 of them fell off, taking with them Johan Museeuw, which is a little bit of a surprise. You don't see Museeuw on the ground very often. Right, well, let's get back up to the leaders. This is Teunissen. Well, the leaders of the main field, that is, of course, because we're still a few minutes away from the head of this Tour of Flanders, which is turning out to be a superb race. But all the racing being done now here by the chase group. Maassen and Teunissen have got clear of the field, these 2 superb Dutch riders. Frans Maassen now feeling its chance to unleash the turbo in those legs, and Teunissen will be just the man to go along with him. So, Frans Maassen, winner of the Amstel Gold Race last year, and the controversial Gert-Jan Teunissen, and he's now tucked in nicely into Maassen's wheel. And if anybody can come through, it's these 2. They've got the Muur still to come at Gerardsbergen. cobble brute of a climb with its gradient of 1 in 4. And they don't let the cars follow the riders up there because it's so steep. They can't afford a car to stall. They send the cars all around the outside of the climb. They meet the race again as it comes over the top. And we're now inside 15 miles from the finish. Well, the Muir comes towards the end. It's the second to last climb of the day, and it comes at exactly 10 miles to go. Now, the two strong riders here, excellent move, but they will not let them go. Again, we've got an Austria rider coming across. It wouldn't surprise me if it's Rolf Goltz, because the rest of the Austria team seem to have had all sorts of trouble today. In fact, Argentine has apparently fallen again and is almost certainly out of the race. Sorensen we've never seen since he changed bikes, and I would think he was very unhappy with that bike change. Now, don't adjust your picture because you think we've gone out of focus. In fact, what we're seeing now is the exhaust of the helicopter, which is giving us something of a heat haze on the picture. Now, this is Goltz. It is indeed Goltz coming across the gap and flying across the gap. Well, you need sunglasses to look at Rolf Goltz with shoes like that, don't you? Onto the tail then of Franz Massen. This is a very workmanlike group now as they come over. 3 riders in the lead here, and Rolf Goltz, the German, superb rider, and again a man who's had a good start to the season when he won the Tour of the Mediterranean in such fine style indeed. And Tönnissen assessing the situation behind. And big Franz Massen, what a nice rider he is, absolutely soaked in talent, and a winner last year, well-deserved winner of the Amstel Gold Race, where he beat Maurizio Fondriest. And it looks even as though Tönnissen is feeling a bit frisky now, because they have a real gap here now, a real chance of getting this group together, and Goltz did well to read it. He flew across that gap, and young Rolf Goltz has linked himself up here with a Dutch Express. Tönnissen, his face still not giving anything away. Rolf Goltz turned professional, by the way, back in 1985, and he's the winner of Paris-Brussels, which he won in 1988. He comes up with the odd good result, to say the least, runner-up in Milan-San Remo in 1990, and he knows all about the Tour of Flanders because he was 4th in this race last year. It's funny how when riders do well previous years in an event, how that they seem to try that much harder to repeat the feat the following year. It happens to Steve Bauer every time he rides Paris-Roubaix. After he won it 2 years ago, he finished 4th in it last year in a very good performance, and he's obviously on good form again now, and he could well do another good ride in Paris-Roubaix when it comes up next week. Well, the field behind certainly haven't gone into a slumber. They're working very hard to bring back these 3 riders, despite the fact they've got TVM, Austria and Buckler represented here. But I don't think there's any Austria riders there able to slow down the chase. And the TVM boys, well, they obviously can't contain it either, because they are coming back. But this sort of chasing now, this tag match across the hills of Flanders, is all going to eat into the lead of those 2 riders, don't forget. Although we haven't seen Hervé Meevisch yet, he's on his way back to us, so that we are sure of. We should be able to catch a glimpse of the leaders actually when we get to the Muir, because our television cameras have static positions there, and that'll be a chance to see Durand and Wegmuller in the lead. So Goltz continues to ride with great determination. Franz Massen. And there is Gert-Jan Tönnissen, 4th in the Tour de France back in 1989. Since then, that long period of suspension of 18 months for the alleged usage of dope, which he still denies to this very day. Well, there's no better way to give your answer than to do a good ride right now. He's in the breakaway. This is the latest time check, 3 minutes 15 seconds back to these 3 riders, and the man in between, almost a minute back of the leaders now, is Hervé Meevisch. We'll see him, I would think, by the time we get to Gerardsbergen on the wall, but they're going to have to be within a minute by the time that they get to the Bosberg if they're going to have a chance of catching those 2 leaders now. Wegmuller is a really strong man. Although we can't show you pictures yet of the breakaway because of our technical problems with that helicopter, Wegmuller has undoubtedly been the strength of that breakaway. He's been doing all of the pacemaking. There's Goltz, 6th in Paris-Nice this year, as well as his win in the Tour of the Mediterranean. And that's Johan Museo and Franco Ballerini here. They must have just jumped away from the field. They're trying to get up to those 3 leaders. 17.9 kilometres to go, about 11 miles from the finish. heading up now towards the Muur. Oh, in fact, no, they're coming back from that crash that we saw a few minutes ago. That's been a long chase for Museo and Ballerini. They're just about to get onto the tail, and it's going to hurt because they're going to get onto the tail of the main field here at a time when they're about to face up to the climb of the Muur. And that's a teammate, possibly Sammy Morels, who's dropped back there to pace his teammate. No, it's one of the MG, but no, it is Sammy Morels who's picked up Museo and Ballerini and is giving them a leg back into the bunch, and that saved a little bit of pain for Museo. He'd be grateful for that. And now the chance to see the leaders for the first time, and here they are on the climb of the Muur de Grammont, and look who's in the lead, the Muur de Gerardsbergen, and look who's in the lead now. It's still indeed Thomas Wegmuller and Jackie Durand, the two sole survivors of a breakaway that started at the 45th kilometre, the 28th mile of the Tour of Flanders, and we're now running down towards the last 10 miles of the day. A tremendous feat by any standards. They should have been back in the bunch at least an hour ago, and they are surviving, and it looks as though Thomas is starting now to step on the pedals and break the spirit of the young Frenchman, but he's digging in and he's hanging on because this is a terribly steep climb. It's 1 in 3.5 to 1 in 4 at its steepest. And there, Thomas Wegmuller is the first to go through and over the top. Durand has suffered but survived as he goes over the top there, right on the wheel of Wegmuller. This is the chase group now who's coming in towards Gerardsbergen itself before they start the climb up the hill. Now they've got to get away. We're looking for a time check of no more than 2.5 minutes by the top of that climb, and then it will still be possible as they run down towards the last climb of the day, the Bosberg. News reaching us too, by the way, that the troubles for the Motorola team continue this season because Frankie Andreu and Phil Anderson have both had punctures, and we've already seen the elimination of Dag Otto Lauritsen from the front here because of that crash. Onto the climb now, and the Panasonics packing the front. Mark van Orso is up here, Rudy Darnans too, and going up through in the middle there we've got Vyacheslav Yekimov. Right on the near side of the camera, number 1, last year's winner, Edwig van Hooijdonk. He was thinking of victory here 1 year ago too. Sammy Morels dances his way up behind. Morels training for the Bastogne-Liège Classic, where he might feature more, although he's not featuring too badly in the Tour of Flanders right now. This is the sad sight of Hervé Meevies, the other Belgian rider who's been out in front all day. He's over a minute now behind the two leaders who've gone through, and he must not be too far ahead of the main leaders of the pack. Oh, and is this hurting? Cramp in the left thigh, that's for sure. And Meevies now, his day is well spent. Onto the Muur, the Panasonics have got the head of the field, so they're looking for a planned attack here as they start the climb. And Van Hooijdonk is the rider who's also planning to try and go clear on the Muur. No further time checks at the moment. But as you can see now, Meevies in very definite trouble. That will leave only 2 survivors of this breakaway. Van Hooijdonk is tapping out the rhythm at the front of the race, and I must say, for a long, tall, thin man, he climbs these small hills so strongly. He's sitting in the saddle there and he's working away. He's got Fondriest, I think it is. Yes, it is indeed Fondriest sitting on his wheel and feeling the pain too. Van Hooijdonk immensely strong. He slipped it up a gear as well. As Fondriest goes past him, Van Hooijdonk grabs his wheel. Rudy Darnans comes up and leads the field, so Johan Museo behind him. These two riders going clear now. This is a good move. This could be where Van Hooijdonk, last year's winner, gets off the front, and he's trailing at the wheel of Maurizio Fondriest, the former world champion. He will be a superb ally with him in the final chase down to those two leaders. If he can get away from the pack now, he's having a job holding on to Fondriest, but they've opened up a tremendous gap. Darnans himself is in fact trying to slow down the reaction, if you can slow down the reaction, on the wall here. And a little bit further down, then you can see how hard it is for the mere mortals in this leading group, because I must say Fondriest made it look rather easy along with Van Hooijdonk. The rest are having to struggle up the climb as best they can. There's poor Rob Harmeling on the left. He works so hard at the front for the best part of half an hour. Now paying the price, he hangs on to the back of the field on the climb of the Muur de Gerardsbergen. So Harmeling, his job done as a domestique, now has to get to the finish as best he can. Meanwhile, let's go back up to the I think these will be the chasers of Maurizio Fondriest and Edwig van Hooijdonk. Van Hooijdonk still having a problem holding on to the back wheel there of the Italian. Fondriest second to Frans Maassen in the Amstel Gold Race last year. That's still to come this season, of course. And we'll close the Spring Classic season in the World Cup. but we're a little way from that yet. This is only round 2 in the World Cup. Sean Kelly the leader. We haven't seen Sean Kelly at all in this Tour of Flanders, and I find that a little bit sad because Sean is the rider that we would have liked to have seen winning this. This is the one race he's always wanted, and that is Mevish. And I'm not sure he knows now even which day it is, because he's in a terrible state, and these two riders won't even afford him a second glance now as they go through on him. Maurizio Fondriest is leading, and Mevish looks over his shoulder, and look at this, he's found the strength to go again. Well, hats off to Hervé Mevish, because he knows the quality of these two riders who've picked him up now. At 15 kilometres to go, we could do with a time check right now, and I bet the two chasers could as well, because this is the second group on the road of 3 riders, and last year's winner Van Hooijdonk has now slipped into top gear. He's waited for his moment, and in the end it's had to come on the Muur de Gerardsbergen, because everywhere else he's tried, the field has marked him. He did well to grab the wheel of Fondriest, and Fondriest is a super ally to have right now. I don't know how long Mevish can possibly hang on to these two, but he won't be asked to contribute to the breakaway, that's for sure. A long gap, I would say probably 20 seconds maybe, to the rest of the remainder of the 192 riders who set out this morning with high hopes of winning the Tour of Flanders. Every one of them except 4 have been put in the back seat for almost the whole day of racing, and gradually those 4 riders at one stage leading by over 22 minutes have been whittled away to, I would think, inside 2 minutes, but we've got no confirmation of that yet. And certainly there's a Motorola rider here now trying to make amends. I think it's Maxi Sciandri who's trying to bridge the gap as well, with a rider from TVM. And in fact, well, I can't believe this, but they're scrabbling their way back up to those 3. And so Mevish, Van Hooijdonk and Fondriest have not yet escaped the clutches of the pack, but at least these attacks and counterattacks are going to be closing down the gap on those 2 front runners. But you must imagine now the confidence over every climb those 2 leaders must be gaining. They know now that only one hill separates them from the biggest surprise probably in the history of the Tour of Flanders. There's Mevish just changing up a gear. I think he's not realising exactly where he is right now, because he's been out in front for over 4 hours. There's the final climb of this year's Tour of Flanders, the Bosberg. And Eddie, remember, earned the title Boss of the Bergs because he's always launched his winning attack on this climb on the 2 times he's won it, including last year. But now he's going to have to come from behind. He's going to have to jump on this climb and hopefully reach the leaders. And we haven't a time check at the moment, but it must be in the region of 2 minutes. And I feel that they needed to be just over a minute behind to have a real chance of winding in those 2 survivors before the finish. It could be that we are now about to witness the big surprise of any Tour of Flanders. And there it is. It's a sad farewell to Hervé Mevish. He's tried to hang on, but he hasn't been able to stand the pace, and I'm not surprised, but hats off. Let's hope that this has given him confidence now to develop in the professional class, because he's only 23 years of age, 2nd year professional, plenty of time for him. Not plenty of time for anybody that wants to win the Tour of Flanders though. These 2 have got to keep the rhythm up, and they've got to get up there quickly. And it must be terribly, terribly frustrating for Van Hooijdonk, because quite clearly he has the winning form of last year. He's ridden tremendously well, and he's finding himself now put into the back seat by 2, well, I won't say virtual unknowns. It's certainly true of Jackie Durand, the Frenchman. You can't call Thomas Wegmuller an unknown, that's for sure, but he is not a winner unless he gambles like this. And he's done it before, and he's now hoping to do it again. Wegmuller, by the way, was the Swiss amateur champion in 1987. He's 31 years of age now. He turned professional in 1988, and it's significant to remember that in that year he finished 2nd in Paris-Roubaix after a breakaway which lasted 222 kilometres, one of the longest breakaways that's proved successful in the history of the sport. And if he stays away today and wins the race, and they're telling us now this is the exact point, the Bosberg, where Van Hooijdonk launched himself in the 2 years he won the race. But just to come back to Wegmuller, if Wegmuller stays away today, he will have led for 217 kilometres, and that would be 135 miles. That's of course if Wegmuller wins, because Jackie Durand is still very much with him, although not, as far as we know, contributing to the race. So we're on the Bosberg, and we're looking now at the chase group here, and this is where the crowd come in their hundreds, because this is where they expect to see the riders launch the victory. And again, it's Flanders who tries to weaken Van Hooijdonk, but Van Hooijdonk says, I've won twice before on this climb, you're not going to get rid of me. He grits his teeth and he hangs on. And 2 minutes 1 second, and that surely has given victory now to the two riders out front. It's only a question of which one. 2 minutes 1 second, the official time gap, and we're 7 miles from the finish. What a breakaway this is turning out to be. And our motorcycle cameraman has decided that it's time to leave the action behind and make our way along the road and show you pictures now of the men who are turning out to be the heroes of this Tour of Flanders. So you see, nobody, just nobody here watching this race or riding in it believed that this breakaway had any possibility of succeeding in the Tour of Flanders. And that was why, quite rightly so, the director, when he lost a camera, chose to bring his cameras back to the chase group to show you the action and how the break was caught by the chase. And now, well, we're all having to eat our words because the camera has been told to leave the chase and go and show us pictures of the men who are going to fight out the result of this year's Tour of Flanders. Quite extraordinary. It's the wonderful thing about cycle racing, and it'll give a lot of heart to people to come out and try this stunt again, and an early break, you see, can succeed. There's no question now that they will. And you can see the sort of gap because we're following live time here across the gap from the chasers of Van Hooijdonk and Maurizio Flanders, and we're very shortly going to pick up from the helicopter the two leaders of Thomas Wegmuller and Jackie Giron. The Castorama team, well, the French, by the way, I think you go back to Forestier as the last French winner of Paris-Roubaix, and that was 36 years ago. And that is a big gap, but the French are flying high this year. They've won 16 races, 16 major races this year, and so they've made their best start for, I think, 5 years in the professional cycling. And look at this, we've gone back all right, but Wegmuller wasn't in the lead, he's been dropped. Thomas Wegmuller, the maker of this breakaway really, and the man who's kept it out front for so long, Jackie Giron, and I don't know where he went, but I suspect coming over the top of the Bosberg, because that's the last springboard, and Jackie Giron has gone. And he's put his head down, and this is going to really be the biggest surprise of the Tour of Flanders. And French cycling isn't going to believe this either, because Jackie Giron, and you can never ever call this man a lucky winner, he has survived the day. He started the breakaway after 28 miles. Wegmuller read the move and joined him, has done most of the work in the breakaway, and now he's paying the price of that impetuosity because Giron has taken his chance. And this is a superb move by Jackie Giron. He was once in the same club back in Rennes, which is in the north of France, as Marc Madiot, the winner of Paris-Roubaix on 2 occasions, including last year. And he moved since then down to the Limousin region. And he was obviously seen as a man of talent because Cyril Guimard, who's trained more Tour de France winners than anybody else, including, by the way, Greg LeMond, Cyril Guimard actually must have seen something special in Giron to sign him up for the Castorama team. He's gone now. I wonder at what stage of this race he realised he had a chance of winning it, because he decided to go for home just 6.5 miles from the finish. The gap is now 10 seconds and the chase is at 150. They're still closing in. They are still closing in, but they won't come back in something like 4.5, 5 miles from the line. That's not possible now. Not when this man really has the bit between his teeth. And surely he can't believe this. Going to victory in the Tour of Flanders, and not just is he French, but he's going to be the first French winner for 36 years, and that will be a slice of history in the making. It's all history now. It'll also be the longest breakaway that's ever proved successful, and it is a tremendous finish. 25 years of age, Jackie Giron. He first sat in the saddle of a bicycle when he was 13 years old, and that was soon after that he joined the cycling club at Rennes, which was the same club as Marc Madiot. He's not been an outstanding amateur rider, a very solid amateur rider, that's for sure. I think he won the Paris-Alençon Amateur Classic, and he also was a member of the French Championship team when they won the 100 kilometres team time trial national championship. That's going back a couple of years, 1988 in fact. But he's been a pro since 1990, and until this day, and he hasn't won it yet, but until this day he's only won one bike race as a professional, the Grand Prix d'Ispers, and he won that towards the end of last season. 7k from the finish, but he's going to win it now, barring the horrible thought of a flat, in which case Thomas Wegmuller, who threw and passed him in a flash. There's nothing now going to stop with Jackie Giron from winning the Tour of Flanders and carrying with it the French Revolution, because it'll be the 17th big victory for France in major races this year. And what about Thomas Wegmuller, the classic man who loves the long breakaways? There's his finishing positions or his standings in the FICP over the years. His best to the highest he attained was 24th in 1990. He's currently ranked 37th in the world, just over 400 ranking points, and that's about 360 or 370 more than the man who's now in front of him. And there he is, Jackie Giron, the long lonely road of Flanders, and every corner now is unwinding this route down to the finish of the Tour of Flanders, and Jackie Giron of France must know now he's cycling to one of the biggest welcomes he'll ever know, no matter how much more he does as a professional cyclist, because he's going to win the Tour of Flanders. And because the French never succeed in the Tour of Flanders, then that's going to make it even sweeter. You've got to feel sorry a little bit for the man. There's Eddy Merckx, in fact, driving the car, and he's winning it in the manner of Eddy Merckx indeed. This is the way Eddy Merckx won his big tours, on his own. Nobody could touch him, and I don't think even Eddy won from such a long breakaway. In fact, I'm certain he did not. He was a very strong rider, and he'd often win by 5 minutes, but his attack didn't come quite as early as this young man's attack came today. Some 28 minutes out, and now just a shade over 3 miles from the finish. It's all over now, bar the pleasure of the flowers and the glory, and my goodness me, tonight the French journalists will have a field day, because they may have expected a French win, but they would never have expected it to come from this quarter. And in fact, Cyril Guimard, the manager of Jackie Giron, sent his assistant team manager to follow the race today. And remember, this is a World Cup event, so that's how much Cyril Guimard felt, I would say, he had of a victory in Flanders today. In fact, Cyril Guimard is over at the Grand Prix de Rennes, where he has a young team riding over there. And that's over in Brittany, in France. And now we're just across the border of France here in Flanders, and a Frenchman riding to victory. Marvellous result, and a fabulous piece of riding by Jackie Giron. He's still riding so strongly, you hardly feel he's been out so long. But this is a tremendous ride. And this is where his experience as a team time trialist is coming in. Now he's free of everybody. He's ridden the longest 4-man team time trial of his life, and gradually he's seen the other 2 drop off, and finally he attacked Wegmuller and got rid of him. And now all that remains is the last 3 or 4 kilometres down to the finishing line. As they turn for home, it's a slight uphill finish. It would have probably favoured Thomas Wegmuller in the sprint, and he didn't leave it to the sprint. And so Jackie Giron now has no fears of that short climb up to the finish. Still, we understand Van Hooijdonk and indeed Fondriest, they are still together. The gap is coming down. They are less than a minute behind as far as we can understand, but they're not going to pick up either Wegmuller now, but they'll be very close on Wegmuller. There's the gap now, 24 seconds Giron to Wegmuller. And in fact the other 2 are not very far behind Wegmuller, but let's have a look through the captions here and just see. There is Thomas the Tank, and he is absolutely blown now. He's hanging on in there, but nobody should take away his second place today. He's earned it so much. As we look further down the road, there's enough gap. That's enough. They must be just in the trees there, or the houses rather, because they are close, but that gap is enough now to assure Wegmuller of second place. He richly deserves that. And Giron, well, he didn't do as much work as Wegmuller in this breakaway, but he read the race exactly right, and he didn't panic, and he waited till the Bosberg to finally go to victory. A long, straight road of a man reaching out now for a piece of history in the Tour of Flanders. Riding down the centre, probably counting the white stripes as they pass under his wheel. Anything now just to take his mind off the pain that must be in his body. He's just looking over the cars behind just to make sure that nobody is sneaking up on him, because it's happened before. I remember when Stephen Roach should have won Liège-Bastogne-Liège, when he was battling it out with Claude Coquillon. They spent so much time looking at each other. Out of the cars came Moreno Argentin. He didn't look at either of them, and he won Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Latest time checkers gone through. They're not going to make any difference now. These time checks have been coming on television screens for the last 5.5 hours, and they should have been taken notice of a long time ago, because Jackie Giron now has sprung the surprise of the Tour of Flanders, and when we look back through the season of cycling, it might well be the big surprise of 1992. Thomas Wegmuller, the lonely figure now of Wegmuller. He's won 4 times already this year, a couple of small open races in Switzerland as well, and in Spain. But this is the one he would have loved to have won and traded all 4 other wins in for. It's not to be, because he's gone back, he's lost the wheel of Giron. And Giron now He's riding with absolute tower of strength. He's like a man possessed. 22 seconds, so it's being held by Wegmuller, but only just. There's still cause for concern because Giron can't afford to make any mistake. Wegmuller will be back on him. And the commissaires rightly have formed a void between these two riders, so there's nobody in the gap apart from our television camera who's riding alongside at the side here of Jackie to make this pursuit absolutely fair and square of two men that have shaped the Tour of Flanders from the 45th kilometre, now coming towards the end of the race. When he gets there, he'll have been in the lead for 217 kilometres, that's 135 miles, and that'll put his name in the history books, not just as the winner, but as the man to have won the race with the longest escape. Well, he may feel a tired man when he gets to the finish, but elation will replace that. I'm sure the champagne will flow tonight, and what will Cyril Guimard think when they ring him in his car, on his car phone, and I'm sure they'll be doing that as soon as they get to the finish, if they've not already done it, to tell him that they're in with a chance. He's going away from Wegmuller now, 35 seconds. Oh, that's better, we can see where we're going now. 35 seconds to go, the lead rather, and just a handful of kilometres from the finish. So Guimard, who's over at the Grand Prix de Rennes, it wouldn't surprise me if they've got an open line to his car right now, describing it blow by blow. There's the main field, and they're well beaten. The two riders are just in front, will be Van Hooijdonk and Fondriest, so they're not really going far away, are they, from that chase group? They could still get wiped out in the sprint. And then we're going further along the road, looking for Thomas Wegmuller, and Wegmuller himself is still well away. That's what we wanted to see. Thomas Wegmuller is still well clear. There he is. He's riding on the hard shoulder of the road, though, and looking like a very, very tired man indeed. So it could well be, you know, that Wegmuller will not survive here, but let's hope that's not the case. It's certainly going to be okay for Jackie Giron. Just over 1 mile to go. In fact, almost exactly 1 mile from the finish for Giron, heading down through the streets. There's a kilometre kite here in Ninove, then out to the finish up on the little rise at Meerbeker. And it'll be another Tour of Flanders over, but this one will be remembered for a long, long time to come. And the French will not believe it. They're winning the Tour of Flanders with a young man who's only been a professional since 1990. He's only ever won one race in his life, but he's benefiting now certainly from the couple of years of advice he's had from Cyril Guimard and the much more experienced men on his team. They knew how strong he was. To them, I don't think it'll be such a big surprise because they know he's strong and he's been given the chance to win from a long way out. Whoops, we just missed that one. As he turns up now to the finish, the banner is as far as the eye can see, the end of the road, and what a long road it's been for Jackie Giron. 217 kilometres, in fact, out in the lead, and he's still crouched in the winner's style at the same time, punching the air as well. And Jackie Giron can take one final look over his shoulders. This is going to be the greatest moment of his cycling career, the longest breakaway in the history of the Tour of Flanders, and now after Jean Forestier can rest in peace now, because another French winner after 36 years has won the Tour of Flanders, and what a great result really, because this breakaway deserves success, but the main field really should be shot because they allowed this breakaway to escape far too far ahead, and race they did, as we saw over this last hour of racing. They completely misjudged the strength of this young man. 23 years of age, and he's entitled to cry right now. First shots that count, and let's hope we see the sight of Thomas Wegmuller crossing the line, because he's been very much a part of the success today of France, and here he is, he survived, and we're all happy about that. The final 100 metres. So, just like he was second in Paris-Roubaix in 1988, he's now going to have to be content with second place here in the Tour of Flanders after a very similar breakaway that lasted so long. He has a right to punch the air. Second place for him, and I think he'll be very, very pleased with that, although tomorrow morning he might have wished it was indeed first place. And that was the sort of gap that they escaped by, because the lead motorcyclist is round the bend, but the gap is enough. There's Wegmuller. Comes in, and I think he's looking for Jackie Giron, because there's Jackie on the right of our picture. Here's the sprint now for third place. Van Driest and Van Hooijdonk both looking over the shoulder, because you don't want to start this sprint too early. It is uphill, 250 metres is far too far to lead out. And now there's somebody coming up from the back of the field there. And so Van Driest is going to have to start the sprint, and he's going to have his hands full with Van Hooijdonk. Van Hooijdonk should be the stronger sprinter now. He's come from the advantageous position of the back, but Van Driest is giving him a very good run for his money indeed. Van Driest is gone. No, Van Hooijdonk takes third place. Van Driest is in fourth place, certainly in the same time. They're all a little way behind. This is the chase now from the back group as they come up towards the line. Dirk de Wolf there taking on the sprint too. Masson is alongside him. It's Masson who will take the line in fifth place, and I think Nijdam gets sixth. Madio will be seventh, and it's Jesper Skibby up there in eighth place. And the race really did split over the Bosberg, and this is the Ariostia team bringing over the next group in the Tour of Flanders, all of them beaten by a young Frenchman today who will go down in the history books as the great winner of the Tour of Flanders. A dream come true for young Jackie Durand, and I'm not surprised he's all smiles. Tonight the night, the champagne will flow. I think everybody here is still stunned by the result today. Did you notice the faces on the riders as they crossed the line? There was one of frustration on the face of Edwig van Hooijdonk. You know, even after 100 years of classic cycling, there are still lessons to be learned. A breakaway goes so far from the finish. This time it survived. The heads of state, as it were, completely misjudged this year's Tour of Flanders. Van Hooijdonk should have been the winner, as it turns out. Instead, he wasn't. The honours go to the young Frenchman Jackie Durand and Thomas Wegmuller of Switzerland. Wegmuller too, well, a few years ago he was second to a surprise winner in Paris-Roubaix. Now this year he's second to another surprise winner in Jackie Durand. That's the great thing about professional cycle racing, you know. Even us experts can never always predict the outcome. And it seems neither can the riders. From the Tour of Flanders, goodbye.